Hello, faithful, and welcome to the 49ers Plus podcast. I'm Al Moriello, and this is your source for the most subjective 49ers discussion, all smart takes without the clickbait. And today we're going to be discussing Brock Purdy returning to the starting lineup to face the Jacksonville Jaguars this week, the wide receiver situation, some returning, some not, an update on Brandon Ayuk's rehab from ACL plus surgery, Nick Bosa, quick discussion there with his ACL surgery happening today. I'm recording this on Friday. Then we're going to dive in, full breakdown, 49ers hosting the Jaguars, 4 o'clock Eastern from Santa Clara. So let's jump right into it. Brock Purdy back in the starting lineup after missing the past 2 games, a good first week at Seattle, a real dogfight between two teams. I mean, every team week one, they're just kind of finding their way. Since then, Seattle has proven to be a pretty good team, somewhat potent on offense and a very stingy defense. So for San Francisco to go up there week one and to get out of there with the win, remember losing George Kittle around halftime or before halftime and obviously not playing or playing without Brandon Ayuk, making it all the more impressive. New Orleans the following week with Mac Jones at quarterback. And this past week against Arizona, Mac Jones again leading the comeback. But Brock progressed well enough from his turf toe that here we have a quote from Kyle Shanahan, quote, "We knew it could go either way," talking about last week. But the fact that we even considered him to be an emergency quarterback last week, just talking to him on Monday and Tuesday, he wasn't full on Wednesday or Thursday meeting a full participant, but you could tell it was going in a good direction. And as long as he woke up today feeling good, we kind of expected it. Brock progressed throughout the week, has taken the majority of snaps as QB1, first team reps. I believe it was on Wednesday that Mac Jones, Adrian Martinez, and Brock Purdy all split first team reps. And from there, it was mainly Brock getting the reps. And I think as of Thursday, and this is, again, I'm recording this on Friday, Martinez kind of fell away from QB1 reps, and Brock got most of them today. Now, Mac Jones is questionable with that PCL sprain that he originally had in the preseason, re-aggravated it last week against Arizona. Such a gutty win and a gutty performance by Mac Jones. Bit quirky with that personality, a bit goofy, kind of the way he laughs in post-game press conferences. But in a lot of ways, starting to cement himself, if he hasn't already, as the best backup quarterback that the 49ers have had under Kyle Shanahan. He should be the backup. I don't anticipate San Francisco elevating Adrian Martinez again. But again, this is Friday evening that I'm recording this. Hopefully there are no setbacks. I mean, the Niners are home. There's no travel. Tomorrow is a walkthrough, if anything, and then the game on Sunday. So hopefully Mac is there in case the turf toe flares up on Brock. And obviously, what a boost for the offense. Obviously, anytime you get your QB1 back, and any of that ridiculous discussion or rhetoric the past couple weeks, the Grant Cohn clique, and Grant Cohn is a clown in and of his own right about, I wonder if the Niners were regretting paying Brock Purdy $250+ million when they can see what Mac Jones can do. And Mac Jones has played well really well when you think about it, with an undermanned Niner offense. No Ayuk, no Kittle this past week, no Jennings, no Demarcus Robinson. The defense obviously loses Nick Bosa in the first half. Defense rallied, got the stop. Upton Stout breaking up that third down pass play from Kyler Murray to, I believe, Zay Jones. Mac Jones gets the ball back, drives down the field, setting up Eddie Pinheiro from inside 40 yards for the victory. But as I've said on previous podcasts, Mac Jones is a starting caliber quarterback in this league. Brock Purdy is a franchise quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. The biggest thing that's going to be impacted this week is the mobility, and we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get into the 49ers-Jaguars breakdown. But every little bit of offensive firepower, improved efficiency, improved production that the Niners can get this week and thereafter is so important because of the injury to Nick Bosa. And I said in the previous podcast, and I maintain that the best way that the 49ers can offset Bosa's loss is to get better on offense. The running game has not been great. The passing game, would you believe if I told you that the 49ers are the number one pass offense in the league based on yards per game? It's true. And they've done it 2 out of 3 games with a backup quarterback, and basically all 3 games down a lot of their offensive weaponry. If people want to attribute a lot of that to Kyle Shanahan, oh, he's an offensive wizard, any quarterback can step in, yada, yada. Then again, I still present you with Brian Hoyer and CJ Beathard and Nick Mullins, Josh Dobbs, Brendan Allen, and of course, the savior who was not Trey Lance. It's not that anybody can work this offense. And I think the common denominator is a quick processor like Brock and Mac are, accurate passers like Mac and Brock are. And arm strength is not a complete requirement. No one is forcing the ball into tight windows. When they're making throws, they both make throws with anticipation. Obviously, Brock can put a little bit more on it than Mac can put a little bit more on it than Brock could, but then Brock offers more in the mobility department, the pocket navigation and breaking the pocket department. I'm not saying they're equal quarterbacks by any means. Each has their strengths, and some, Brock leans into that mobility more so than Mac does, and Mac maybe trusts his arm more so than Brock does, but they both trust their brains and trust their eyes seeing those in-breaking routes. Now, Mac threw one that he would like to have back last week to Pearsall, which was, I think, on a 3rd and short, not necessarily the read that you need to push for in that situation, and completely, missed Pearsall on the play. Could have sealed the game for Arizona, but again, thank you, Upton Stout. So Brock Purdy returns, and he's going to return with at least one added weapon. The wide receiver situation, Demarcus Robinson returns from his 3-game suspension. And when San Francisco signed him in the offseason to a 2-year contract, you knew he was going to be a very dependable number 3 receiver as Ayuk was working his way back from the knee injury. This is assuming, of course, that Juwan Jennings was healthy and Ricky Pearsall stays healthy. Well, Robinson, we don't know about just yet. Juwan Jennings, we don't know about just yet. Ricky Pearsall, questionable as well. We're going to talk about that in a moment. But bringing in a veteran who performed really well in the spring, really well in training camp during the summer, more dependable than a Marquez Valdez-Scantling, certainly more dependable than a Sky Moore. Bringing Kendrick Bourne in, nice as well. I mean, it's only been, 2 or 3 weeks for him. At least Demarcus Robinson had the benefit of OTAs and camp. We're talking months of indoctrination into the offense. I'm sure not a ton has changed since Kendrick Bourne was last here in 2020, but you're getting, in addition to Bourne, and let's not gloss over that, in addition to Bourne becoming more comfortable in the offense, now learning to catch passes from Brock and getting the timing there. And I think Brock mentioned in the last press conference, I heard that Bourne has only caught 1 or 2 passes from Brock ever or total thus far. And obviously the injury has a whole lot to do with that. But bringing in a savvy veteran every time someone new re-enters the offense, and this week it's going to be Demarcus Robinson, hopefully Juwan Jennings as well. There might be growing pains with the timing with that receiver, but hopefully it's something they can work throughout the course of a game. But it's bringing in a receiver that bumps a current receiver down. Last week, whether it was Sky Moore or Marquez Valdez-Scantling, each having a catch on that final drive, that was great, but they are going to be bumped down to either inactive or not really relied upon as a pass catcher throughout the game, but especially when it comes to crunch time with the players that they have ahead of them. Now, I mentioned Pearsall and Jennings is questionable. They are. Let's start with Pearsall first, his knee. He said, I think on Tuesday, that his knee was a little sore when he came in on Monday, let the trainers know. It's not a big deal at all. He's definitely playing in the game. And if there was a game Tuesday or Wednesday, a couple days ago, that he would play. He doesn't think it's a concern. I'm surprised he's designated as questionable. I probable felt a little bit more in line with how Pearsall was talking, but take that for what it is. And Juwan Jennings was a non-participant Wednesday and Thursday, or maybe he was limited on Thursday, but he did participate in a limited fashion on Friday. Did not look like he was going full speed. It's not like I saw the whole practice, just saw some clips on social media. Doesn't mean he's not 100%, but I would wager he's not 100%. And if he misses this week, then I don't know what the conversations are internally about how bad is the ankle actually, and is playing on Thursday, a short week after the Jacksonville game, going down to Levi South in Los Angeles. Is that a possibility? And you have to just hope, obviously, no one else gets banged up against Jacksonville, looking at a short turnaround against the Rams. So what does this mean for the wide receiver situation? It means if Jennings can go and the Niners keep 5 receivers active, which they will, they're not going to have 6 active. It would be Pearsall, Robinson, Jennings, Bourne, and Sky Moore. Marquez Valdez-Scantling would be inactive because Moore would be the punt returner. And I guess one of the kick returners along with Isaac Guerrero. If Jennings can't go, then you have Pearsall and Robinson as your 1-2, Bourne as your number 3, MVS and Sky Moore rounding it out. The issue that I have, or the concern, if Jennings is deemed able to go, what if he re-aggravates that ankle sometime early in the game? Then you only have 4 wide receivers up in Pearsall, Robinson, Bourne, and Moore. Again, you're just losing Marquez Valdez-Scantling. It's not like it's the biggest loss in the world, but you would be you'd be playing, down a man at wide receiver. And I really don't think they're going to keep 6 active just in case Jennings is active and they want to hedge against injury. I just think Robinson is such a big return and Bourne was such a big signing. Because even if Jordan Watkins, the rookie, was healthy, and he's not with the calf injury, and he still might not be healthy for a couple weeks. And even then, I don't know if he ever sees the field, given just other needs the Niners may have at, on their roster, and other receivers getting healthy like a Jennings or an Ayuk whenever he's going to return. And we'll talk about that next. Veterans are more important for Shanahan and Purdy with the way the offense is operating, the way the running game is struggling, and obviously not having George Kittle at tight end. But the 2 backup tight ends, Jake Tonjes, 7 receptions, Luke Farrell, 3 so far. So you are Kittle might have 7 receptions a game or in a game. So they're not replicating his production, but you're getting something, because historically you've gotten nothing out of tight ends not named George Kittle. So let's quickly talk about Brandon Ayuk. I'm sure you've seen on social media, etc., that Ayuk is not close to recovery, to coming back. And I think there was some false hope. Shanahan downplays every single injury. He didn't downplay the Bosa injury. He did walk back his comments where, I didn't say it wasn't a torn ACL. Yeah, but you basically said that the trainers, when they were examining Bosa on the sideline and in the blue tent, by performing the physical ACL test, that they didn't think it was the ACL, but they would need an MRI to confirm that. So that wasn't downplayed, but every other injury, even Brock's close last week, he might be able to play. I know it's all gamesmanship. I know it's all just having your opponent prepare for or not know what to prepare for. But before the season started, when he said, there's a chance that, Ayuk might be back around week 6. If at the time there was no goal, a date set that they were shooting for, and now there certainly isn't a date that they're shooting for, why the hell did anyone think that you can throw out a week before the season starts to make people think, oh, Ayuk might be closer to returning than we think. It's the same thing with the whole Aiden Hutchinson nonsense from last year. Remember, he broke his leg, and oh well, if the Lions make the Super Bowl, I might be able to return. Zero chance. The year before that, Aaron Rodgers tears his Achilles. Oh, if the Jets make the playoffs, he could come back. Zero chance. And I haven't heard Aiden Hutchinson refute that, but Aaron Rodgers after the season said, yeah, I was nowhere near returning. All about giving fans and people hope, something to talk about, especially a narcissist like Aaron Rodgers wanting to always be part of the conversation. But these injuries are bad. Ayuk's injury was more than an ACL. Obviously, a broken leg for Hutchinson, a torn Achilles for a 38, 39-year-old, whatever Aaron Rodgers was at the time. Zero chance. So I kind of fell for it, like, oh, yeah, maybe Ayuk could come back week 6-ish, week 7. I was thinking that. I mean, obviously, I'm not basing that on anything I'm seeing because I'm seeing nothing. Kyle sees him every day. I'm not sure if he's talking to the medical staff every day, but he's given updates. But here's what Lynch said first. Let's go back. Quote, Ayuk's working hard and will just continue to do that and will be a better team when Brandon's out there. So we look forward to that day, but it's not close. When we have some more information on that, we'll be forthright with it. No, you won't. You guys aren't forthright with injuries at all. Never. McCaffrey's, bilateral Achilles tendonitis. Like there's no need to. I mean, they're taking the Bill Belichick approach. So being forthright with it means we're just going to tell you something will lend you to believe it's the truth or what we believe. And then it's probably going to be something a couple weeks out from that. Now, Kyle followed up today with this quote. I think it's more like when we get kind of probably an exact target date, which they don't have. That's when you look at it that way. I think we're getting close to that, to having a target date. We're just not there yet. That's when I'll start thinking about it. And we don't have that yet. So we're waiting until they give us one, meeting the medical staff. Everybody that sees Ayuk warming up on social media clips, running routes, accelerating, decelerating, cutting. Oh, and people say, oh, he looks pretty good. Well, he's not getting tackled. He's not running 100%. He's not playing. And I'm sure when Ayuk returns, he's going to be eased back into the offense. He's not playing 30, 40, 45 snaps in a game. That might be all the running he does during practice, what we see on social media. Who knows? But looking at the schedule, I'm going to create my own target date. John, Kyle, I got it covered. I'm not a medical professional, but I did have an ACL tear, so I feel like I'm informed to speak on this. I'm going to circle Sunday, November 9th at home against the Rams as his return date. Now, that's the midway point in the season. That would be the 49ers' 9th game. There'd be 8 games after that, plus a bye, so the midway point in the season. And the previous 2 games before that are on the road and on turf at Houston and at the Giants. I don't think they bring him back for back-to-back road games. I don't think they bring him back for a road game. Now, they could after the Rams, but I think a home game on grass, the fact that it's grass is great, but the fact that it's at home, get the fans juiced up, have Brandon, feel the love. We're talking 6 games from now, but essentially like 5.5 weeks since I'm recording this on a Friday. And game number 4 is going to be on Sunday against Jacksonville. That's what I'll circle. That'll be a year plus out from when he tore it against Kansas City. Not like the year is a huge marker, but thinking that week 6 was a possibility. Maybe now at week 6, maybe they target week 9. Looking at the schedule, that's just what I'm thinking about could make a good time to return. If he returns against the Rams, that will be 4 weeks, then a bye, then the last 3 weeks of the season. I'm not saying that that's a good or bad thing. I'm just letting you know how, the last 8 games last 8 weeks would play out. So quickly, Nick Bosa, I'm recording this again on Friday, had ACL surgery today. You know what Kyle Shanahan's company line was going to be. Talked to surgeons, said it went great. I'm going to speak to Nick tomorrow. It was a clean cut. That's a clean tear. That's what you want of the ACL, blah, 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 blah. So now next year, 2026 season, there's the possibility Bosa could start on PUP, right? 4 weeks, first month of the season, come back sometime in October. But since he had surgery on September 26th, think about it this way, guys. It'll be 10 full months post-surgery once you get through the month of July of 2026. Then you have the month of August. Then September, the games start. If you were to be able to start week 1, that would be 11 and a half-ish months post-surgery. Barring no hurdles of any kind, any setbacks, it's possible. Now, they could always keep him active, have him activated sometime before week 5 if they don't put him on PUP. But Bosa tore his ACL week 3 in 2020. Grant, he's 5 years younger. I don't know how much that's going to factor into it. Came back for week 1 in 2021, had 15 and a half sacks, 2022, 18 and a half, and he won Defensive Player of the Year. Not saying that that's going to be the same path, but you have an example of the same week he tore it. I'm not sure at that point 5 years ago if he had surgery the week after. I'd have to look that up. This time he did, and you're looking at 11 and a half months until week 1, which is a possibility. Robert Beal, I'm sure you know, has been promoted from the practice squad to the 53, and he will get some playing time. We'll see if he is one of the base down defensive ends when the Niners open up their first defensive drive against Jacksonville. So that is our segue. Niners hosting the Jaguars. San Francisco, a 3.5-point favorite. At home, essentially, Vegas is telling you if they play it on a neutral field, it'll be a push. A 46.5 over-under. Now, what's at stake here from a statistical standpoint for San Francisco? One, it's staying atop the NFC West. Even if the Niners lose, they would still be atop the NFC West because they have 2 divisional wins. They've beaten Seattle. Seattle's now 3-1. If the Rams get to 3-1, the Niners would still, by tiebreakers, be atop. But if they want to be clear-cut atop, they'd have to win this game to go 4-0. But since 1990, teams who have started 4-0 have made the playoffs 84.5% of the time. They've won their division 65% of the time. 3-1, still a good mark, but obviously the percentages drop. A 3-1 team since 1990 has made the playoffs 65.5% of the time and have won their division 40% of the time. I thought San Francisco, after the first 4 games, would be 3-1. I thought they would drop week 1 to Seattle and win the next 3. They're 3-0 now, and now it's time when I think we could get greedy and the 49ers feeling like they need to steal this game. If you want to say steal, they're favored by 3.5. Again, neutral field, the Niners are favored by 0.5 point for whatever the hell that's worth. But if they can get this game, and it's at home, which is great, Jackson wants to travel cross country from Florida, long flight, time change, all that. Getting to 4-0, knowing you are going to the Rams on Thursday night next and to Tampa Bay, that could cushion you if you drop both in 4-2 versus being 3-3 if you drop this one to Jacksonville. Now, that's getting way ahead of ourselves. We don't know who's going to be injured or not for the Niners against the Rams. We don't know who's going to be injured or not for the Rams on Thursday night against the Niners or for the Bucs. I mean, Mike Evans is out for multiple weeks with a hamstring. They should be getting Chris Godwin back at receiver. But as Kyle famously said last year, we don't know who's going to be alive on Sunday, which I guess technically is true. But let's take a look at the Jaguars. They're 2-1. Week 1, they beat Carolina 26-10. Week 2, they lost at Cincinnati 31-27. Remember, that was the game that Joe Burrow went down. So they lost to Joe Burrow, who played about a quarter, and then Jake Browning, who played the rest of the way. Week 3, they won at home against Houston, an 0-3 team, 17-10. So they beat a 1-2 team, a 2-1 team with a backup quarterback most of the game, and a Houston Texan team who's really struggling. Both wins were at home. Their one loss is on the road. They'll be on the road in San Francisco. Now, the Jaguars are the number 8 overall offense, 13th passing, averaging 215 yards a game, 5th rushing, averaging 142, 14th in points scored, averaging 23.3. Obviously, the quarterback position starts with Trevor Lawrence. He's so far through 3 games, averaging 224 yards a game. He does have 4 touchdowns, but also 4 interceptions through 3 games. Travis Etienne, very glad I have him on one of my fantasy teams, is averaging 90 rushing yards per game of that 142 as a team. Receiving wise, tight end Brenton Strange is leading the charge, 46 yards per game. Then receivers Dynami Brown at 39 yards per game and Brian Thomas Jr., second-year player, at 38. The defense, it's one of those interesting times where it's a defense, it's only 3 weeks in, but they have more interceptions than sacks. 7 interceptions, 6 sacks on the year. The Jags are the number 10 total defense in terms of yards allowed, 17th against the pass at 209, 4th against the rush at 83, and 6th in points allowed at 17. The D-line, the strength of the team, defensive ends Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker, and former 49er defensive tackle Eric Armstead. On the back end, you have cornerback Tyson Campbell and Jordan Lewis, who leads the team with 2 interceptions. The Jaguars have some players, right? The Jaguars defensively or on offense apparently are pretty good sign stealers, legal sign stealers, per Robert Saleh. Didn't say it in a negative way and says it that it's common that teams do that. But on offense, when he has faced the Jaguars before and the tape that he's watching, especially Liam Cohn's team, Liam Cohn coming from Tampa Bay, that they're able to steal whatever signs that, whether it's coaches are giving to players, players are giving to players. So something that Saleh is on the lookout for. I didn't hear what Liam Cohen's response was, the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Hopefully it was taken as a compliment. It wasn't anything accusatory, and Saleh said it was legal. We'll see how that plays out. Now for San Francisco, let's start out with the rankings before we go into some of the particulars about the game. The 49ers, with all the injuries, and I know people are going to look at, you could look at EPA and different advanced analytics in terms of offense, but let's just go through the basics. They're number 7 overall offensively in yards gained. Number 1 passing, I mentioned earlier, 271 per game, with a combination of Brock Purdy for 1 game and Mac Jones for 2, and a whole lot of weapons missing. 27th rushing, which is a problem, 90 yards per game. 23rd in points scored at 19.7. Defensively, the Robert Saleh difference, along with some players that they've brought in and a lot of youth. Number 4 overall defense, 5th against the pass, allowing 162, 15th against the run, 104, and 2nd in points allowed at 16.3. Before we get into the keys to the game, I'm just going to go out on a limb-ish and just let you know who I think the inactives are going to be. Not like you could put money on this on Vegas, I don't think. But Jordan Watkins, calf out. CJ West, thumb ruled out. Juwan Jennings or Marquez Valdez-Scantling will be out. One of those 2 receivers. Nick Martin, 4th straight week at linebacker. He will be inactivated. I believe the last one will be running back Jordan James, the rookie out of Oregon. In terms of any practice squad elevations, I'm not sure. There might be one. I really, looking at the practice squad, I'm not sure who they would elevate based on what the injury report looked like currently. And the only players knowing for certain are out being Jordan Watkins and CJ West. You know, with CJ West being out, again, totally okay. They claimed Jordan Jefferson, 2nd-year player out of LSU, from the Jaguars at final cuts. They don't need to elevate someone like a Sebastian Valdez or an Evan Anderson. I don't think they need to elevate Adrian Martinez today. They don't need, or for the game, I don't think they need to elevate a receiver. You know, it could be a corner. Renardo Green did not practice today due to a neck injury he sustained against the Cardinals. If that's the case, then Eli Apple might be your elevation from the practice squad. We'll see. But those are at least my best hunch in terms of inactives. Now let's get into keys to the game. What is the Niners pass rush going to look like game one without Nick Bosa? Now, Trevor Lawrence, he has some mobility. He can break the pocket and avoid the rush if things break down. He's only been sacked 4 times this season in 3 games, and the Niners only have 5 sacks in 3 games, 2 of which have come from Bosa, who's done for the year. So can they affect Lawrence? Can they affect Lawrence with their front four? How much is Saleh going to need to dip into his bag of tricks and send pressure at Trevor Lawrence? Or at the very least, how can they affect him? And by pressure, I meant blitzing. Are they going to blitz 5 or 6? And by affecting Lawrence, I don't mean pressures. Pressures are great, but it is a statistic or measurement in terms of a pass rusher near a quarterback might cause the quarterback to step up, step back, left or right. Pressures to me does not mean affect the quarterback, affect them in a negative way. Hit a quarterback hit, causing him to break the pocket, a throwaway, affecting what the quarterback actually wants to do downfield. Pressures don't necessarily equate to that. So I'm curious how Saleh is going to dial it up to affect a quarterback like Trevor Lawrence, who's turned it over 4 times already. And let's get on to, key number 2. Can the Niners get an interception? It's been 3 games, no interceptions. Can they get 1 or 2 from Lawrence? Win the turnover battle would go a long way to defeating Jacksonville. The time of possession battle, being good on third downs, preventing Jacksonville from being good on third downs. These are all, basic things that you can talk about any game for any team being good at to get a victory. But San Francisco forcing turnovers via the interception, you're stopping a drive and you're giving the ball back to your offense. If it happens in plus territory on their side of the 50, even better. Will this be the week where the Niners break the seal and get an interception? The Jaguars can run the ball really well. The Niners are getting better at stopping the run and are a better run defense team this year than they were the last quarter of last year. They're still giving up over 100 yards a game. So I'm going to put it, and the Jaguars are averaging $142 on the ground a game. Can they keep Jacksonville under 120 or under 115? Now, Travis Etienne and Ricky Bashale, too, in a nice 1-2 punch that Jacksonville could unleash. The run defense feels like it has to be more stout. Now, the CJ West injury, not a huge deal. Jordan Elliott playing well. Michael Williams on the inside. Obviously, you have Alfred Collins. You're going to have Jordan Jefferson up and Kalia Davis. They're going to have the bodies. The injury's not really going to matter. And that Cardinal game, as I mentioned on the last podcast, it felt like John Connor was running wild for the first quarter and a half. And then when they flashed a statistic that he only had about 10 rushing yards, I felt like, Jesus Christ, did I black out? Am I not following the game properly? It felt like Arizona was running the ball better. Now, good news is, even though Lawrence has some mobility, he's no Kyler Murray. And I don't know if they're going to rush contain Lawrence the way they rush contained Murray to keep him in the pocket, have him throw over the line. And it was really only one rush for about 12 yards where Murray broke the pocket and picked up a first down. Connor went down end of the first half, beginning of the second half. That helped the Niners' cause. And they're facing a better running game in Jacksonville. A top 5 run offense overall. Can they keep it under control? I don't think they're going to keep them under 100 yards. But if they can keep them under $120, I'd be okay with that. How's Brock going to look? It took us to number 4. I went 3 defense, 3 offense. How is Brock going to look? Is there going to be any rust? He got most of the reps of the 3 quarterbacks this week. And again, I think it's only going to be he and Mac Jones that are going to be active. Will the mobility be affected? I'm hoping not, or I'm guessing not, because I don't think San Francisco would put him out there if they weren't going to get the full Brock Purdy, unless Mac Jones was a no-go and they're forcing Purdy into the lineup because they don't want to start Adrian Martinez for a game. Again, they're 3-0, And that gives them a little bit of a cushion, but a game you want to, I hate to use the word steal, but get to 4-0 knowing the Rams and the Buccaneers are coming up. So hopefully the rust factor, Robinson coming back, regaining that connection they had in training camp, and the same with Ricky Pearsall. Will Ricky and Brock regain that connection that looked so good in training camp and for parts of the preseason whenever they play? Now, on top of that, though, who is going to step up other than Christian McCaffrey? I think last week between McCaffrey and Pearsall, they had about 25 combined targets. That's great because they are both very good with the ball in their hands, but there needs to be, or there should be, a third weapon to step up, right? And it's great if it's going to be Demarcus Robinson. It would be great if it would be Kendrick Bourne. It's not going to be either one of the tight ends in Tonjes or Luke Farrell. But I think the Niners need to be less predictable in who's going to get the ball. Now, if they're going to give checkdowns to McCaffrey and he's going to pick up 6, 7, 8, 10 yards per checkdown, you keep going to that well until they take it away. And if they're not covering Pearsall well, or he's finding holes in the zone, then you can keep going to it. I think Mack went to the Pearsall well once too often when he threw that interception beyond and over Pearsall on a moderately deep in-breaking route. And it felt like Mack was forcing the ball to Pearsall some during that game. And if you want to say, well, nobody else was getting open, there was no Jennings, Bourne, it was his second game. He did have 4 receptions, though. Someone else needs to step up, especially if Juwan Jennings isn't playing, and hopefully that's Demarcus Robinson. Now, my prediction. Now, earlier I said, I had the Niners starting out 3-1 with that loss to Seattle, and I had them beating Jacksonville. My predictions at the beginning of the season, and I had San Francisco going 11-6, was based on decent health. Not shit falling apart already in the first 3 weeks of the season. With Bosa being done for the year, with Kittle being placed on IR, hopefully he'll be back week 5 or week 6, with Jennings being banged up. Luckily, they're getting Robinson back, and Brock missed 2 games. They were able to weather these storms so far to go 3-0. And I saw on NFL Network, out of the 10 people picking this game, I think 6 picked Jacksonville. And I come back to why. What has Jacksonville shown us? I don't want to say to make us think that they can knock off the Niners, because the Niners still aren't at full strength. But congrats on beating a bad Panthers team. Congrats on beating an underperforming Texans team, both at home. But you couldn't get a win against Cincinnati, a bad defense that the Bengals have, and going up against a backup quarterback on the road in Cincinnati. Yes, they're a 2-1 playoff team, and a lot of people said, oh, the Niners are the worst 3-0 playoff team ever. I'd still rather be 3-0 than 2-1, and I still think the Niners are a better team right now, banged up, than Jacksonville is. Now, if the Niners were fully healthy, say minus Ayuk, say Bosa was here, Jennings was healthy, Kittle was healthy, I mean, the Niners would probably be a 6 or 7 point favorite. But I still think if Brock is at least 80, 85%, and you can get, better receiver play, again, if Jennings doesn't play, then you have Pearsall, Robinson, and Bourne as your top 3, whereas last week it was Pearsall, Bourne, who was still acclimating to stuff, and Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Again, as you're pushing, as receivers come back, you're pushing someone else down, which means a lot basically for the top 3, because it's not like receiver 4 gets a whole lot of playing time and receiver 5 hardly at all. And that's probably going to be Sky Moore's designation for most of the season once, say, IU comes back, or at least when Jennings comes back. So I have the Niners winning this game 23-20. Now, Jacksonville's defense has played well. They have players at all 3 levels, but especially on the D-line and in the secondary. They can give problems to a 49ers offensive line. And if they do, and Purdy's mobility is compromised, they could get to Purdy 2, 3, 4 times on Sunday. And the flip side with the Niners defensive line, as I've said a few minutes ago, can they affect Trevor Lawrence in a negative way? I don't care if they don't get to him, but can they force errant throws, throwaways, right? Overthrows, interceptions would be great. I'm not holding my breath. Can they get him off his spot and not place the ball where he wants to? Now, the run defense is going to have their hands full with Travis Etienne and company. But I think Saleh, even without Bosa, can whip up, for at least this week, another game plan to control a Jaguars offense that, while they have players, I think it's going to take them additional time to really maximize what Liam Cohen is trying to bring to that offense. And with Brock back, with Robinson back, with a healthy McCaffrey, enough weapons on offense to keep the Jaguars off balance, and enough going on defense with, even without Bosa, to win another potential ugly slugfight. Now, it might not be as high as 23-20. I was toying with maybe 20-17 San Francisco, 20-16, 23-20, hoping for a little bit more offense this game. Hell, if it was 23-16 San Francisco, 23-17, even better. But I'll keep it to a 3-point game. I'll keep it to the Niners not covering. Because again, I don't know what Brock's going to look like, how much of the mobility is going to be affected, who's in and out at receiver. Will Jennings play? And it's been a couple weeks for Brock. But again, think they have enough to get past Jacksonville and get to 4-0 and launch into the toughest 2-game stretch of their schedule at the Rams next Thursday night and then at Tampa Bay the following Sunday. So that's going to conclude the podcast for today and this week. Like always, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule for making us part of your viewing and listening routine. Whatever you guys are doing between now and when we speak again, either Sunday night or Monday, enjoy the game. Hopefully it goes the way that we're hoping and wanting it to go. And 4-0, and it's not the schedule. I know the Niners, a lot of people are saying the Niners have an easy schedule. That's great. And maybe it's been a little soft out of the gate, minus the Seahawks game week 1. But look at what the Niners are dealing with injury-wise. To get to 4-0, not even being close to 100% on offense, and now what they're dealing with on defense. We thought that Saleh had his hands full with just the rookies and the new faces. Now without Bosa, the prospect of 4-0 would be oh so sweet. And hopefully it's something that's realized on Sunday. Everyone, whatever you're doing between now and we speak again, stay happy, healthy, and safe. We will talk soon. Take care.